Are there any declarations of interest? Seeing none, adoption of the agenda. Can I get a mover and a seconder to adopt the agenda? I got Councilor DeAngela and Councilor Rose. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Adoption of the minutes. Can I get a mover and a seconder to adopt the minutes? Councilor Sentence and Councilor Decker. Are there any errors or omissions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Mayor's remarks. On July 19th, I brought greetings on behalf of City Council to the John Howard Society of Niagara's 75th anniversary and AGM held at Club Capri. I presented them with a certificate of recognition for reaching the 75th anniversary milestone. As a nonprofit organization, they have an important role to play across Niagara and are committed to the development and delivery of programs that reduce social, economic, and personal costs of crime. Once again, congratulations on your 75th anniversary. On June 20th, I attended the announcement of the CAA's Niagara's 2 new Community Boost recipients held at the CAA Niagara headquarters on Schmoen Parkway. This year, CAA donated $10,000 to Fax Niagara Foundation, that's Family and Children's Services of Niagara, and $10,000 to Toolbox Niagara. They also put the association's logos on their 2 new tow trucks. James Simon spoke on behalf of Toolbox Niagara. Thank you, CAA Niagara, for being a great community partner. On June 20th, I also attended the Pope Francis Center, formerly St. Charles School, Alternative Education 2024 graduation ceremony held at the Balls Falls Conservation Area in Lincoln, Ontario. It was a heartwarming ceremony. Great things are happening at the Pope Francis Center, including seeing that facility being fully utilized. On June 22nd, I attended the Thorold Garden Club's Rose and Flower Show held at the Senior Center. I selected the winner of the Mayor's Award, which will be presented at their fall event. On June 22nd, I also attended and brought greetings on behalf of City Council to the Walker Industries Campus Annual Niagara Campus Neighbor Appreciation Day. This is a special event for Walker as they welcome their near neighbors and community partners to visit their campus and learn about the innovative things they are doing towards building a sustainable future together with their local communities. On June 24th, we celebrated the grand opening of another new City of Thorold business, Rustic Roots Hair Lounge, located at 11 Topaz Street. Joining me were Councillor O'Hare, Regional Councillor Whalen, and Natalie Stickles. Thank you, Heather Helstra and Jenny Graziani, for choosing Thorold, and all the best moving forward. On June 24th, the Thorold Secondary Class of 2024 celebrated their 150th commencement ceremony. Councillor O'Hare represented City Council at this graduation ceremony held at the PAC Center in downtown St. Catharines. Congratulations to all the graduates. Anna Jarmillo was winner of the Mayor's Award, and Megan LeBlanc was the recipient of the Thorold Council Award. On June 25th, I attended the Dennis Morris Catholic High School 64th annual graduation celebration at the Central Community Center in Niagara-on-the-Lake. Congratulations to the large class of 2024 graduates. The Community Market and BIA Car Show continues to grow. Join us at the Battle of Beaver Dams Park on Wednesday evenings from 5 to 9 p.m. The Thorold Super Soccer School announces their 35th year on Monday, July 15th through the 17th. It will continue. It is the longest running sports camp in Thorold's history. Canada Day weekend. Canada Day weekend was very successful despite the weather on June 29th and 30th. A record crowd, estimated to be over 7,000 on Canada Day, turned out to help us celebrate, and we thank our community for making this a very special day. Thank you, Thorold City Council, for supporting this important weekend, which brought our community together. City staff, Jeff Holman's team, Jacob Tedesco, Dave Baldoni, Steve Santo, Parks and Recreation staff, as well as Maria Morrow, Carrie Gruel, Tessa Bonacore, Natalie Stickles, who looks after the social media coverage, Thorold Fire and Emergency Services, who looked after the first aid services, and Danny Vukovic, who did the drone coverage. Bob Lettycoat, who booked all the bands, Frank and Ray, the sound team, anyone I missed, and most important of all, our generous sponsors. A heartwarming story from Saturday, June 29th, which was supposed to be the Niagara Jazz Festival World Music Day in the Battle of Beaver Dams Park. The Moose and Goose, Mike DeDavitis, and Donnelly's Pub, Joe Vialli, offered up their venues to accommodate the Niagara Jazz Festival when they had to move their event indoors due to inclement weather. The event was saved and was successful. It is this type of community-minded action that makes our city so special and the best place to live, work, and raise a family, and we've seen this all weekend. In closing, Canada Day was our town crier, Tony Vandermass's last official event, and I see Tony's here tonight at the council meeting. Tony served as our town crier for 25 years, and we would like to thank him for his service, his time, and dedication to our community. Tony has undoubtedly left a lasting impact serving the city of Thorold. He is a master of the craft and second to none as our town crier, and he will be missed. We presented Tony with a certificate of recognition on Canada Day after opening remarks. And once again, Tony, thank you so much for your years of service. And that's the end of my mayor's remarks. We'll move on now. There's no presentations or delegations, so we move into items for consent. Is there a mover and a seconder to take items of consent as a block? I got Councillor Sentence and Councillor Decker. Do councillors want to lift any items 11.1 through 11.5? Go ahead, Councillor DeAngelo.
I'd like to lift 11.5.
11.5. Okay, is there anyone else? Go ahead, Councillor Longo.
Yeah, 11.4, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Okay, so I had a mover and a seconder, and we'll use the same mover and a seconder for all of them? Oh, Councillor Hare, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. 11.1, please.
Okay. So 11.2 and 11.3, all those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. 11.1, go ahead, Councillor O'Hara. That's Canada Community Building Fund.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a question through you to staff and probably to Maria. Maria, I noticed that the funds are based on a per capita basis, but I'm just wondering about the prediction for the years. I'm assuming it's tied in with growth. And what I see there are the years 2025-26 paired with each other, and 2027-28 both have the same number of grants that's allocated. And I'm just wondering, are we not projecting continued repeated growth, and is that just a safe way of predicting it at this stage?
Through Mr. Mayor, these numbers come right from the website. I don't believe that they recalculate the allocations on an annual basis. I think it's done on a 5-year basis. So this is what we expect. Certainly we have seen some instances where if they had extra funds, there would be an increase, but it would sort of be an across-the-board increase for everyone as opposed to a recalculation based on population.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Go ahead, Councillor Hanley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Maria, on follow-up to that, in regards to electric vehicles, do we know that this is a gas tax? So if we eliminate gas, is that where we're going to get the funding? Do you know, I don't know how to put this. Is there any indication? Obviously, they're looking to eliminate fossil fuel vehicles for 2050, and we use a federal gas tax to subsidize our roads, whatever. Is there anything down the road that we know of in regards to electric vehicles and how we're going to subsidize them? Do we have any indication of that?
You, Mr. Mayor, no, we don't. They've actually renamed, they've repackaged the grant program a number of years ago and gotten away from the federal gas tax program. which is what it used to be called, but there really is no indication in terms of, you know, is the funding fully federal gas tax like it was before? And what happens if the pot dries up?
Yeah, I only ask because electric vehicles currently don't pay any road taxes in the province of Ontario or Canada, I believe. They are starting in the United States, and I'm sure it's a thing that come here because I look at that to be a subsidy for the gas tax, is that the electric vehicles will be paying a road tax themselves when they register their vehicles.
Hey, do you want to speak on that? Go ahead, Counselor.
Yeah, I'll speak on the report, not specifically that point. It just, at the bottom of the report, it talks here, it says, very little has changed from the former agreement with the exception of a heightened focus on housing. Municipalities with populations of 30,000 or more must complete a housing needs assessment by March 25th, 2025. Other municipalities with housing pressures are encouraged to develop one. My question, and you probably don't have the answer here, or Mr. Mayor, if you do have the answer, the City of Thorold is not responsible for housing. That's a regional component when we're looking at municipalities. Are they doing a housing assessment plan, and is Thorold included in that housing assessment plan? I don't expect an answer now if no one has it, but I think we need to review that, because I'm assuming they're gonna get part of this grant in term, not our portion, but I'm sure the region gets a large portion of the former gas tax grant. So I'm just posing that question. I think it's important because the expectation, especially of citizens of Thorold, is that they do want more types of housing, affordable housing, different structures of housing, but it's not within the mandate of Thorold City Council. I've stressed that to numerous people. So if there's going to be a housing, what was it called, a housing assessment, a needs assessment, is that something the region's going to do? And then will that also, obviously it'll encompass Thorold, so I think we should find out what they're considering as our needs when they do that assessment, because they would be mandated to do it because they're over 30,000. If anyone could provide clarity, that's great. If not, if they could send out an answer to council, that'd be appreciated. Thank you.
You want to speak on that, Jason?
Through Mr. Mayor, I don't have any information at this time on that.
But there is, we can find out more information. It's a good question, and we should get to the bottom of that. I know that from the province, it's 50,000 and over at the provincial level, and if they're doing 30 and over, there is money that's flowing down to municipalities, so we have to make sure that, and we are lobbying the provincial government, not just Thorold, all the smaller communities in Niagara, to make sure we get our fair share of funding on that model. That was money that is to build homes faster, that basically is to replace what you lost in DCs and other things like that. Anyway, okay, so that's, we'll get information regarding that, Councillor DeAngelo. We had a, go ahead.
Just a follow-up for that. How does giving a if I could ask, Mr. Mayor, how does giving a municipality monies speed up development? What do we do, pay off developers to build houses faster?
No, what they're trying to do is they're trying to get to make sure the infrastructure's in place to do the development. That's the
But then
reason.
again, aren't developers responsible for the infrastructure, not the municipality, when development occurs?
There's certain infrastructure we're responsible for, and
Yeah.
the region, as far as running trunk lines and different other.
So the money's, if I can then just comment, so the money's basically going to the developers then, so they can put in the infrastructures for housing?
No, it's going directly to the municipalities. Okay.
Well, I'm just wondering, because we were never in the infrastructure business for new development. Is that something that municipalities are now gonna be involved in? We're gonna put the infrastructure
No.
in for advancement of
Jason, do you want to
construction?
explain how that works, please?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, so the developers are still responsible for infrastructure that is relevant to their specific development. But if the city is required to upgrade infrastructure or install new infrastructure that are going to service new undeveloped areas of the city, that's something the city would be responsible for, and then the developer would be responsible for the infrastructure specific to their development.
Okay, just to follow up on that, so then could I say then, in the past where Rolling Meadows had to pay for a combined sewer overflow tank, now the city would actually be paying for it, not the developer, so that development could expand? No?
No.
No? Okay. I'm just wondering, because it's getting confusing out there with
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the
development charges and everything.
things
Sorry,
that,
Marie.
things that are, would be growth-related, that the city would be responsible to put in, would be recovered through development charges, not from the taxpayer.
Okay. Because it's just wondering why they giving us this funding, like, it's just confusing, like, why we're getting this money when developers are gonna pay for it anyway, so what are we doing with the money? That's my question, so, we'll find out.
Okay, so we had a mover and a seconder. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. PWCS 44, 2024, Uppers Grove site alteration. Go ahead, Councillor Longo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just have a couple of questions here regarding this. It's Upper Grove subdivision site alteration permit, and it looks to, it says in the report that the landowner will be removing 62,000 cubic meters of material and importing 78,000 cubic meters of material. And I'm just curious if staff knows why, like what's being removed and what's it being replaced with?
Go ahead, Sean.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Sometimes during the construction process, certain materials, topsoil, can't be utilized for the base for houses and roads, so they strip a lot of that stuff off and they remove it from site. Sometimes they will bring it back in as part of the subdivision, but and then they need to fill in some holes and low spots in the clay base.
Okay, thanks for that. And I'm sure through the, I guess, Ministry of Environment or whatever, we're assured that this new fill, the imported fill, is clean and safe?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, for sure.
Okay, and my final question is, this has taken place throughout the city, in different areas of the city over the last number of years, and it creates quite an issue for local residents in terms of dirty streets and roads with all this fill being moved around. Is there a plan in place, I guess similar to the one out here on DQ Road where the developer's doing a great job keeping the street clean? Is the developer required to bring street sweepers in and keep the local roadways and arterial roadways clear of mud and debris?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yeah, that's the exact purpose of the site alteration permit, is to make sure that they give us a deposit, they put some money up that we can call on to make sure that it's clean if they get a little bit behind, but also to keep them very motivated in doing exactly that. We've also laid out the route by which they're going to move the material, so that we know exactly who's making the road dirty, that we can stay on top of them.
Okay, that's great news, because I know in the past we've had a number of areas and residents, you know, at wit's end because of the dirt on the road and clay and rain and mess that it makes. And I hope we can stay on top of that, and I hope this developer does a good job keeping our streets clean. Thank you.
And in that project that you brought light to, they got a sweeper there full-time, running steady.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I sent a number of emails. I was more concerned about the pathway that was covered in mud, and the next thing I know, there's been a full-time sweeper, so I'm glad that we can aid in Niagara's employment.
Okay, I had a mover and a second. Do you want to speak on the site alteration? Go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, I read the letter from Daniel and Partners on behalf of Rolling Meadows. And the question that comes to my mind is that this is before the OLT right now, at least some of the proceedings are going through the OLT stages right now. And it was pointed out in the letter that this may be contradictory to what the result of the OLT decision is going to be. So I'm just curious, are we putting the city at risk at all by allowing something when a decision hasn't quite been reached?
Go ahead, Sean.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we don't believe so. We believe that the OLT ruling is related to the development itself, and this is not really the development. It's just moving dirt in order to prepare for the development.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. PWCS 46, 2024, project status update, new mausoleum design. Go ahead, Councillor DeAngelo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is exciting news because it's one of the projects council's been pushing forward to move forward. It's part of our strategic plan. So I'm glad to see it here this evening as we're moving it forward. But the comment I wanted to make, I did have a chance to speak to our Director of Operations, Jeff Holman, just regarding this, because I know last time there were some suggestions made at the presentation. I think it was back in the fall when Emilio Raimondo was here doing the a presentation on the first drawings that came forward. I suggested that we have a public meeting, and I know sometimes it's hard to get individuals out to a public meeting, but talking to Jeff, he's assured me that they're gonna have a meeting with the 2 funeral homes in Thorold to make sure that they have some say in the design work here before it's finalized and put out to tender. So you want to make sure we put all the good ideas in there first before it's designed, so that way there's no changes after that cost you more money. So at that point in time, I think it'd be a good opportunity also if there any members of the public would like to participate in that and give their comments, or even now to give their comments regarding the design. Because I know in the report here, it still shows the old design, and one of the comments I heard by myself and a couple others was that if we could attach the 2 buildings so you can actually walk from one to the other without going outside. I know it doesn't sound like a lot during the summertime, but in the wintertime when it's awfully cold, if you could stay within the buildings, it makes it a lot more comfortable visiting those that have passed away and are sitting in the mausoleum. So if that could be incorporated to give that opportunity to the public to have another kick at the can before it's finalized, as the process moves along, I think would be very helpful. Because there's a lot of good suggestions out there, and hopefully the public comes forward and puts them in, because we're spending a lot of money on this. We just are working on the operations center. Once that's completed, this is the next phase. So I think it's important to make sure it's a friendly, welcoming area that allows for expansion, but at the same time meets the needs of those that want to make sure their loved ones are in the facility. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
And Jeff, that's duly noted. You're good with that? Okay. And I had a mover and a seconder. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay, we're going to move on to items for consideration. And up first, we have CLC 34, 2024 Heritage Advisory Committee motion regarding turning of the sod event. There is an update on this. The St. Lawrence Seaway Management Corporation has expressed they're interested in funding the commemorative plaque. So I just wanted to add that because that's new information, okay? But anyway, can I get a mover and seconder for that? I got Councillor Sentence, Councillor O'Hare. Is there any discussion regarding that? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. PWCS, Expression of Interest, White Arena. Can I get a mover and a seconder? I got Councillor Dedivitas and Councillor Decker. And I'll open the floor for questions. Jeff Holman's here for any answers. Go ahead, Councillor Hannon.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, in regards to the building, I couldn't help but go get Appendix C from when we voted for the Canada Games, and the engineering report. I don't know if Councillor O'Hare has ever received one, because the last time we talked about this, he actually stated that he would like a copy of the engineering report, and I don't think he's ever received one. But my concern is that at the time, back then, we were looking at total building repair upgrade renewal needs at $2,400,000, and current replacement value of burning components, well, not we were gonna replace it, but anyway, it was at $6,402,000. So are we gonna address some of the concerns that's mentioned in this report? Because I'm looking at myself as a counselor, I don't want to put myself in a liability issue when I read the engineer report. You know, especially when it says here that in 2017, they indicated no significant moves or concerns, but several recommendations are made, including sealing column ends, cleaning, repainting truss members and columns, and doubling up cracked purlins were present. I don't know, have we ever done that? Through you, Mr. Mayor, we ever done that work? Because it says here that these repairs have not been undertaken at the time. So if they're still not undertaken, I have concerns with it when we're going to be looking at tendering or having occupants in the
I'll let
facility.
staff answer, but I think some of those repairs were done. But anyways, Jeff,
And if,
go
okay,
ahead.
if they were, if we could have some, I'd like to have some documentation in regards to it if they were done, because when I read the report, nothing against anybody in this room, just I want to have an understanding. I'm bringing it up because at the time, there was concerns that there was deep troubles with this building. And we voted to decommission it, and now we're looking to use it again.
Well, I think you better,
I know,
they're
but-
looking as a short term until 2027, which time council will decide what they're doing with the building. So this isn't for a long term, this is short term, but I'll let Jeff comment on that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You know, Councilor Handley brings up a good point. The information that we shared with the potential users is the same information that we provided to this council when we were discussing Canada Games Park. And what the report recommended was that if you're going to use it as an arena again, you need to spend considerable amount of money to put it in a state of good repair. We're not going to use this facility as an arena anymore. We're going to use it for dry floor space. So the improvements that would be required are going to be more purpose-built as opposed to replacing the old arena as a new arena. So that's really the difference here. And then the whole idea of having this conversation with the user groups is to talk about what improvements they might need. Obviously, the city would be responsible for the shell of the building, but internal improvements, whether it's flooring, lighting, heating, cooling, those types of things will be the type of things that we discuss with the user groups to talk about what work actually has to be done. But your point about the condition of the structure itself, it would be part of our process to come back to you with some type of analysis that says, if we're going to use this building again, even for dry floor space, for the next 3 to 5 years, what capital improvements would need to be done?
And I appreciate that, Mr. Mayor. Just to follow up to
Go ahead, go ahead.
just to follow up to is that in the report, it really doesn't say if there's ice in, this is what shape the building's in. If there's no ice in it, this is what shape the building's in. What the report says is the building's not in good shape. So I respect Mr. Holman's comments in regards to the ice, even though the ice isn't there. This is about structural integrity. The roof, the beams, the purlins, the columns. It's got nothing to do with the brine in the pipes or the refrigeration equipment in regards to the ice. So that's my concern. So before I'm gonna move forward as a counselor, I wanna make sure that it's addressed and we're not putting ourselves in a position of harm. And I'm only going by what I was told 4 or 5 years ago, Mr. Mayor. And I'm just wanting to make sure we do our due diligence and assure ourselves as counselors that we do all our homework and cross our Ts and dot our Is before we do rent out that facility. Because we at one time said it was decommissioned. We didn't say whether or not it was dry or wet. The building itself was decommissioned.
Councillor DeRose. Thank you, Councillor Handley.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. Just a quick question, Jeff or Maria, or whoever can answer. When this comes back to us again, are you gonna have a number beside each user group's request? Just a rough ballpark of what it would, like, say for soccer, for ball hockey, for whatever's down there, volleyball, I don't know. TCAG, will we have, like, you've got the second attachment I'm looking at, copy of EOI for James White, the PDF. As a counselor, I'm gonna need a number as to the cost for each of those user groups. So can I get that with the report or with the follow-up?
Go ahead, Jeff.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, that's the intent here. After discussions with these 3 user groups, we'll come back with an operational plan that will say how the building is used, and a capital plan that talks about what improvements and who's contributing to the cost of any improvements that might be required.
And just as a follow-up, Jeff, I spoke to Thorold Soccer today, just because I'm in contact with them daily. And they would prefer the outdoor situation. I know they don't have any money to spend on this, so just to let you know, but their preference in the long term is an outdoor
Turf field.
turf facility, yeah, because then you can go right up till November and you can start in March. Instead, this is gonna give them maybe a couple months in the winter, and the cost will be astronomical. But anyway, it's just a comment. Thank you, Jeff.
Anyone else has comment? Go ahead, Counselor Decker.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. Jeff, I'm really glad to see this coming to the table, and that we're actually have 3 groups from Thorold that are potentially going to be using that space. I know that TCAG is running out of room everywhere for their needs and whatnot, and I just think that this could be a potential good news development story for these groups to have a place, you know, to use and stuff. And yeah, obviously we want it to be safe and whatnot, and I know that you've been in talks with them, so I just want to say that really great report, and I'm really glad to see those 3 user groups are at the top of the list to be able to use that facility, so thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Decker. I got Counselor DeVitas, then Counselor Dion.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I was just thinking about the building, with all these issues we have in there, is it really smart of us to even to pursue this with air conditioning costs and all the costs that are going to be involved? None of these groups will be able to afford that. Running the AC, doing all that would be so expensive. And maybe it's a better use of our time if we don't even look at this.
Well, I think he's just bringing a report back, and then council will make a decision based on the details. But anyways, go ahead, Counselor DeAngelo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm a little concerned. I don't want to spend, you know, it's great we have 3 community groups that want to work and get into this building, but I don't see them coming forward with a lot of potential capital investment that's required. Again, I wasn't on council last term, but they built a big building by Brock. Thorold Community Activities Group was here. They were proud supporters of it. Now we're looking at repurposing a building, and you know what? This is why I was big on the strategic plan and our operational plan. This isn't even listed in here. So it's not one of council's high priorities. There's other sporting events or sporting not activities, but facilities that we need to put some money in that we've been neglecting for years. Soccer, again, they're looking for an artificial turf, but now they're here looking for this. They're gonna have one or the other, because there's, you know, we don't have money trees growing in the cemetery, so we have to make sure that we're very diligent in what we pick and what we move forward. The other time is staff, do they have time to spend on all of this, to come forward with all this, when we have other projects that we're working for? Like, I'd rather see us, like, we haven't even met yet as a committee regarding the artificial turf field with the school board. Again, I'd rather see staff time go there than into this particular item right now. And then the other one was baseball upgrades. Have we started working on a plan and upgrading our baseball facilities? So if that's all being done now, I could be corrected here. If that's all being done now by staff and they're okay with that, and then they have extra time to do this, I'm okay with spending a bit of time on this. But if they're not already working on those other 3 projects to have them moving forward, I'm a little hesitant moving forward with this. You can work with the groups to find out exactly what they need. I believe we have a report coming up later regarding the Allenburg Community Center that we're working with the Flying Dragons regarding that. So it's not like we're neglecting any of these organizations. We'll work with them all. We're working with them with different facilities, but now we're throwing another one into the mix. The Thorold Community Activities Group, can we work with them about getting some time at the Canada Summer Games facility? You know, I was corrected today because I said we're an owner of that facility, but we're not. We're just a leasee. But let's see if we can lease some time there. We're sending checks there monthly, huge checks monthly for that facility. It was built for everyone to use. Let's see if we can direct them there and sort of accommodate them there. So that takes care of the one. The other one is the Flying Dragons. We talked about them at the Allenburg Community Center. I know they do their drills. Can they use the Canada Games facility for that? Is that an option there for doing their drills if the Allenburg Community Center is too small? And then again, the soccer club sort of just spoke here, and they're saying they would prefer the artificial field that we're supposed to explore, and that's one of our being vibrant and prosperous community operational activities. Again, so that's soccer upgrades, baseball upgrades, and then we talk about the multi-use turf field. So I'm a little hesitant of spending staff time. Maybe to you, Mr. Mayor, if I can ask our Director of Operations, how much time and do you have the capacity to work on this while doing all the other projects that I mentioned?
Through Mr. Mayor, thank you for your consideration of staff time. It will take some time, obviously, but I just want to maybe step us back a little bit. When we talked about the ultimate reuse of this property, we're developing some terms of reference for, a bigger plan for this property. It's really important piece in the downtown core, and so that work is going to take place. It's going to get started, I guess, in earnest later on this year. But there will be a period of time where this facility is sitting unused, and you may recall, or if you tapped into some of the Parks, Recreation and Trails Committee, we've received a lot of interest from various user groups wanting to use this facility, whether it's pickleball or tennis or whatever. In some respects, it would be a shame for it to sit empty when there's a demand for additional services. And this is really just seen as a stopgap measure in the next 3 to 5 years, until the permanent plan could be put in place. There is a cost, and I know one of the things that you had asked for in a previous report, there's a cost to doing nothing as well, and a cost to mothball the facility to provide security. And there's an option for us to use the facility for possibly our own, events or, walking track or some type of passive recreation. So there's a number of different options, and I'd like to bring all of that information back to you when we see what these user groups can bring to the table. So I think there's a bigger discussion to be had here, and I take the comments and the points to mind, and I will make sure that we address them in the next submission.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you for those comments. I appreciate that. I don't mind doing some investigative work. I just don't want to build up the hopes of individuals or organizations thinking, oh, this is great, because we could get 100 organizations to use this facility if it's free. There's no problem doing that. But I'm looking at next year's budget. We're running with a lot of budget overruns this year for various reasons. They're not going to disappear next year. There's going to be more pressures on us next year. Last 2 days I got a phone call and a large discussion about the taxes that people pay in this community. And what am I doing about it as a city councilor? Well, these are the items I have to look at and say, okay, we've sort of come up with our plan. Let's stick to our plan. This is outside our plan. Or if we're going to throw this in, what are we going to take out? And we put a lot of effort into the strategic plan. So it's great to say, okay, let's go ahead and do this, and then you come back with a bunch of costs. It will be very disappointing, because then we're going to say at that point in time, wow, it's going to be too expensive, let's not do it. Meanwhile, staff has invested a lot of time, and the hopes have been built up of the organization. So that's my big concern. Sorry if I'm throwing a wet towel on this. That's not my intent. My intent is to be a little bit realistic and seeing what's coming forward and looking at some of the great things that we can accomplish as a council. But if we get sidetracked all the time, it may derail us on some of the other goals that we're trying to achieve. So that's what I struggle with sometimes here, is making sure that we balance that off. So to me, if it's just further discussion, getting some ideas, but I'm not going to pay a consultant to start doing some work in terms of evaluating costs. Yes.
It's an internal thing. It's got nothing to do with consulting.
I know, but Mr. Mayor, our staff time is valuable and it's internal, but when they're working on something, they're not working on something else. It's like it was mentioned, there's a cost of doing nothing, but there's also a cost of doing something. Something else loses. So that's my concern. I'll let other councilors make their comments.
Go ahead, Counselor Sentence.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I like this report. I don't see a harm in finding more information out. This is a process that's been going on for years now to find something to do. I haven't read the engineering report in a while, but I remember being told the expansion and contraction of the ice was the reason the walls were budging out. If you were down at the arena, there was little things on the walls measuring if they were going in and out. And I believe that at the point in time when we decided things, we had to run this facility and figure something out to do with it for a 5-year period. Or again, I'm going back in time, so I apologize if I'm not 100%. So this has been in the works for quite some time. So I'd be curious to see where it goes. If it goes nowhere and they can't do it, that's fine. My long-term vision for this would be, in a perfect world, is affordable housing and some space underneath or something, or to have a multi-thing there. But as far as just looking into this right now, I'm all for this because we've been supposed to do this for quite some time. So thank you.
Counselor Longo, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You know, I agree with many things Councilor D'Angelo said. This is not a strategic priority from our strategic plan that we just finished. To me, I've heard somebody say this before, it's just another shiny lure. It sounds great. Everybody says they want to use it, and we've learned this lesson before. We build it, and all of a sudden, people don't want to use it for some reason. And the cost in the engineering report, which I read again, was a short-term fix was around $6.5 million. Now, again, I don't know what that entails or what's necessary, but that seems like a lot of money for a short-term fix, especially when, and I don't want to sound like I'm harping on it, but some of these groups wanted a new facility, which we built. And now they don't want to use the new facility, but they tell us they would use this facility. So it really concerns me that we're going to just keep throwing good money after bad. We've got all kinds of available times and space for rent at a facility that we're committed to. So I believe that these groups, although they do great work, they should go to that facility and rent space and time. If we could walk into the White Arena and use it tomorrow, I may be okay with that. But my feeling is, and I know there has to be substantial capital improvements to the building for the short term. And I wouldn't spend my money, and I don't think any other councilors would spend their own personal money of that magnitude for a short-term fix. It just doesn't make sense to me. Again, I think we need to utilize what we have to the extent possible. We are spending almost $1 million a year, and the building sits empty at times when these user groups could use it. So it's not these 3 particular user groups. It's any user group that wants time. If they think we're going to fix this and give it to them for free, that's a mistake. It's not going to be like that. There's a cost to doing this. There's a cost to staff time. It would be much cheaper for us, probably, to hand money to these groups to go rent this building, rather than spend $6 million to update a building that's only going to have 4 or 5 years worth of life. It doesn't make sense to me. Finally, I'll just say this whole process was a little disturbing to me as a counselor. In the last few weeks, reading things in the newspaper that these groups were getting this, and the way it took place, it just didn't seem right. I'm not sure if it's an issue with our committee levels or what it is, but people were coming to me saying, you know, why is this group getting the building and this group isn't getting the building? It just didn't seem right. And I don't know if others were, confronted with questions like that. But the whole process, it seems like this should have come to council first before it went off and had these comments made in public. But I just wanted to say that, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Anyone else that has something to say? Go ahead, Councilor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, I just want to say that council will have the opportunity to completely turn this suggestion or recommendation down. What's missing right now is more information, enough information to make a wise decision. So I love the fact that we may potentially be able to offer a place to a Thorold group. It may never come to fruition, of course, but that's to be determined once we see the information, once we see how much it may cost, the work that may be required. So I'd like to allow this report to go forward, and though it'll cost a little bit of time with the staff to prepare it, then I think we could make a solid decision once everything is presented to us. So, thank you.
Okay. I think personally, I'm gonna make a comment that I am not in favor of spending any money on that facility. $0. And I don't think that's a wise investment. I think we should be looking at accelerating what we want to do with that facility. But in the short term, if a report comes back and says we can utilize it for a few years and it's safe, I have no problem with that, providing there's no cost for us to put money in that facility, because I don't want to throw money there when I'd rather be putting money into some other of our strategic objectives, like a turf field and that. But that's my personal opinion. Anyway, so remember that this is just to get a detailed report back. It's no commitment that we're doing anything, okay? Did you want to add something before I call the
I
vote?
agree with you 100%, Mr. Mayor, and I'll support the report coming forward, but I think we're at the subsidization maximization for taxpayers. We subsidize an awful lot of groups in Thorold, and it's hitting the breaking point now where when I'm getting the calls, and Councillor DeAngelo, I spoke to him today, he's getting calls. One of my calls was a $68 quarterly increase in a lady's property taxes. So 4 times 68, right? Just under $280, and she can't afford it. So this is my concern. It's great that we can subsidize user groups, but it gets to a point where I think we're doing enough at this point, and I'll support the mayor's comment about I wouldn't spend a penny on it. Thank you.
Okay, so we had a mover and a seconder. We've had a wholesome discussion. All those in favor?
Mr. Mayor, I just had another point that I wanted to bring up. It sort of ties into what Councillor Longo said. I know this went to the advisory committees, and I appreciate all the work they do. You know, they're valuable assets to our community. They provide input, they provide some advisory stuff. But they've already spoken on this issue. They're very supportive of it. They want this to move forward. Now, item number 3 saying that we're going to send the operational plan and the capital improvement plan back to them. The only issue I have with that, well, that's what it says here, Mr. Mayor. I know you're shaking your head, but that's what it says.
No, I said yes.
Okay.
I'm shaking yes.
Okay, thanks. Okay, all right. It looked like a no, but but just to point that out. Yeah, it's, like I said, they've spoken on the issue, they've made some comments, which is great, but now I think it's in council's hands. I don't think, I don't want to read about this, about the capital improvement plan in a newspaper. This is what it is, it's a great idea, let's move forward with it. Because, again, councillors here have to look at the whole big picture of what Thorold is, what we're doing, what our strategic plan is. The people on, those that are involved in those committees are really focused. You know, they really dig into their issues, if it's environmental, if it's the recreation, if it's housing committee, whatever the committee is, they do, and I appreciate that. So they get a little bit more detail in it. But now we have to, like when we're talking about a capital plan, that involves money. So that should be coming back to council, not to the committees to decide on how we're gonna spend some of the capital things. You know, we could have that report come at the same time, once it comes to council, to go back to the committees for some insight on there. But I think at this stage, it shouldn't go back to them before it comes back to us. But that's just my opinion. I think Councillor Longo, from what he said, sort of sees the same value in that, but I don't know how my other councillors feel on that.
Okay. Go ahead, Councillor Thorold.
Yeah, can we make a friendly amendment to remove 3, please?
That's a friendly amendment. Do you have a seconder?
So the mover and seconder Our Councilors DeVitis was the mover, Councilor Decker was the seconder. Is that,
The friendly amendment
Is
to
that-
remove number 3.
Nicholas?
Wait.
You're not moving it, you're changing the language.
well, they have to be okay with the friendly amendment.
What's it?
Can I? So what you, I think I understand is that it is not going to be presented to Parks, Trails and Rec Advisory Committee. It should come to council. Is that the amendment?
Correct.
So you're not removing third, but you are making that amendment that is
Comes
coming
to
to council.
first, maybe.
Council. Be
Thank you.
presented.
Thanks, Manoj.
Okay, be presented.
So to be clear, it's to be presented to council first. So you're adding that and you're keeping that the details be presented to the advisory committee for comments at a later time?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Are you good with that as a friendly amendment? Okay. So we're taking all 3 together. We had a mover and a seconder. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. 12.3, PWCS 66-2024 RFP Award, Allenburg Community Center renovation design. Can I get a mover and a seconder? Counselor Hanley and Counselor Sentence. Speakers or any questions regarding this? And can we get that up? We'll get that put up first. Okay, Counselor D'Angelo, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, this is a good news story. Here we're working on one of our facilities that hasn't had a lot of tender loving care over the past few years. And again, there's benefits to the Thorold Community Activities Group as you read through the report. They're trying to establish. So to me, this is good. We're working with our community groups. We're strategically working on improving some of the facilities that have been neglected. So I'm very supportive of putting money towards this. I believe the Flying Dragons also use this facility, if I'm not mistaken. So maybe we'll get the soccer club to use the facility too. But then we have everyone working there. But I just want to highlight, like I said, we're not always negative here, or at least I try not to always be negative. I try to be realistic, but at the same time, I'm also trying to point out that we're supporting our community groups as best we can in different facets to help the whole community. The revitalization of this also helps the Allenburg community and those in Thorold South. So it's good to spend money throughout our community to improve our facilities throughout, so everyone has access and is able to use them. So that's the point I wanted to make. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Anyone else? Go ahead, Counselor Didavides.
Yeah, I'm very pleased with this because there's a lot of potential in this facility, indoor and out. There's a lot of space there, and I think a lot of people can take advantage of it.
Thank you. Go ahead, Counselor Hanley.
I'd just like to say, I'd like to see the turnaround, because at one time, before this last term of council, the last term of council, there was even a report forward of selling the land, demolishing the building. We had a proposal here. The community stepped up, we found some members to run it interim basis, and now that we're doing this, it's great to see that it's gonna stay alive.
Okay, I had a mover and a seconder. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Operations Center update. Can I get a mover and a seconder for this report? Counselor Decker and Counselor O'Hare. PWCS 67-2024. Put that up, and any questions or comments from council? Go ahead, Councilor Longo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the Director of Finance. Item number 5 says additional funding in amount of $100,000 be approved from internal financing. Can you explain what we're going to do there?
Through Mr. Mayor, the project right now was not fully funded, so we are carrying a balance that we will allocate a certain portion from our normal levy every year towards the funding of the project. So what this will do is this will just extend probably by about a few years the payback.
Okay, so this is no direct impact on our current levy, and it's not a budget overrun per se?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, well, number one identifies that there is your budget adjustment, 364,000 plus HST. That's your adjustment for this year. The report identifies the various funding sources. So number 5 will impact slightly. We have 2 options with internal financing. We can either increase the amount that we're allocated on the line by line through the year, or what we can do is we can just extend by a number of years, leaving the levy portion as it is right now, and just extending the payback to cover the number 5 overrun.
And through you, Mr. Mayor, to the Director of Finance, a second way is what you would recommend?
Through Mr. Mayor, probably, yes.
Thank you.
Councillor Sentence, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, just a question to Mr. Holman. I see here that, just reading it, you think we'll be done, if we do all this, we can be done this year and moved in?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, that's our.
Beautiful. That's good news. Thank you.
Anyone else? Go ahead, Councillor O'Hare.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the Director of Operations, I was just out recently to the Operations Center, and I have to say I really like the visitor parking signs at the front. So well done. That has been a challenge for a long time, well, since you've been in there, and I think that's brilliant. So good move. Thank you.
Okay. We got a mover and a seconder. Just regarding the overrun though, but in your tracking statement says we're actually tracking good for the year, am I correct?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes,
Yeah,
that's
so
correct.
we're tracking positive, not negative. I think that's something everybody should be aware of when you looked at that report. Okay, we had a mover and a seconder. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. PWCS 72-2024, emergency splash pad repair. Can I get a mover and a seconder? I got Councillor Sentence, Councillor DeAngela. Any discussion on that report? Go ahead, Councillor Longo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the appropriate staff member. It's slightly related to this, so sorry for going off topic, but I noticed our wheelchair swing had major issues with the base below it. Is that being addressed in any way?
Go ahead, Dave Baldoni, I'll take that question.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, to Councilor Longo. So that was identified with the holdback from the contractor that installed that soft rubber landing. We're in discussion still with the contractor to have that remediated and fixed.
Okay, I just know, I noticed it, and it looks a little dangerous to me, so I thought it's something that needs to be looked at, and that's why I snuck the question in here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good way to sneak it in there, Councillor Long. Go ahead, Councillor O'Hare.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is also for Dave Baldoni. Dave, was this a one-off? I mean, can this happen again, and have we taken measures to try to prevent it from happening again following springs?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. There is never a one-off. Accidents happen. These components are in a pit, based in a pit. It's the brains of the splash pad itself. That was designed back in 2010 that manufacturing companies utilized. The pit itself, they're a plastic pit, and we experienced a crack in this one, undetectable through the summer, through the winter months, and through spring. It sustained some water damage. The new splash pad we're doing at Sullivan Park will be an out-of-pit control panel. So some of our older splash pads in town were utilized in the building, in the facility as the controls. The manifolds, all that was in a building. Port Robinson, unfortunately, doesn't have a structure out there to house the control panels.
Are we able to put something in place that will reduce the amount of water flowing in, or?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. So we have relocated where the actual control panel is located in this pit, and I'll put into budget for 25, relocating the other control panels for the Macmillan splash pad and McAdam splash pad.
Okay, thank you very much.
Go ahead, Councillor DeAngelo.
Yeah, I just want to thank staff for moving quickly on this. This is just a receipt for information report. The CEO authorized the emergency repairs, especially with the heat that we've been having. So again, I want to thank you guys for moving quickly on this as opposed to waiting for council, because our timing isn't always the greatest. There's a delay there, and with the heat wave, I'm sure a lot of young youth are refreshing themselves in the splash pad. So congratulations. But work well done on this to move forward to get it fixed before coming before council. Don't mind approving this one as a receipt for information.
Go ahead, Councillor Sentence.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Through you, same comments. The pivot to get the second control board that wasn't working to make sure water was coming out of there during the heat. Great job, great job. They were very happy. Thanks, Dave.
Okay, we had a mover and a seconder. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. So we're on to notices of motion. Councillor DeRose, you can provide yours.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to put a notice of motion in to just get some financials presented in regards to Canada Day in the near future so we can plan for next year.
Sounds good. We'll get that. Councillor O'Hare, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have two, both are heritage related. One is for the designation bylaw for 82 Welland Street North, which will be presented to council soon, and a notice of intent to designate 18 River Street in Port Robinson.
What was the second one? Sorry.
18 River Street, Port Robinson, right across
Okay.
from the fire hall.
Thank you. Councillor Sentence.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I bring a notice of motion, for lack of a better word, to for staff report for a rat rebate program in our city.
Okay. Thank you. And now I have a notice of motion. I have a special events working group motion. Call on Councillor O'Hare for his motion respecting special events working group, and I need a seconder for that, Councillor Decker. Okay, go ahead, Councillor O'Hare.
So I'll just read the motion.
Yeah, just the last part.
Yep. The council approves the establishment of a special events working group to facilitate regular or as needed engagement between city staff and council members for the purpose of enhancing collaboration, support, planning, and coordination respecting special events held within the city of Thorold, including but not limited to the community market, Canada Day festivities, Santa Claus parade, and other city-held special events.
So what you're looking for is someone to work with Jacob and Dave's group, am I correct?
That's correct, yes.
A focus group, more focused than what we used to have under the special events.
That's correct.
Correct. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, Councillor DeRose.
Yeah, through Mr. Mayor, is there a cost to this? Is it a paid position?
No, this is a group of volunteers.
Because I thought what we have right now is working well. I don't know.
It
why
is,
we're
but
trying
they've
to
been
change-
working with different people. He just wants to formalize a working group, that's all.
Thank you.
Okay? Councillor Sentence.
No, I think this is a great idea to get some counselors on there and keep pushing forward. We got really good momentum going right now.
Go ahead, Councillor O'Hare.
Thank you very much, Councillor Sentence. And Mr. Mayor, I'd like to nominate some councillors to sit on this working group. So I'd like to start with nominating Councillor Decker.
Thank you, Councillor O'Hare. I accept, because that originally was my committee. I didn't realize.
You were on special events.
I didn't realize it had been disbanded, so I think this is a great idea, so thank you. I accept.
And I'd also like to nominate Councillor Didovides.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd be honored to do this. I have 35 years of experience doing this, large festivals, small festivals. I work with people on a daily basis. I do events year-round. I have expertise I can bring to the table, and I would like to help the city going forward. So,
Is there any other councillors that are interested? Go ahead, Councillor Decker.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, because Councillor O'Hare is also involved with the community market, I would like him to sit on this committee as well.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Decker, and I gladly accept. Thank you.
Or anyone else that wants to be involved? Go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you. I see we have 3 counselors. That's great. I'm just wondering, will there be a terms of reference set out for this? Are we having community members part of this to that extent?
Go ahead, I'll ask our CAO to speak on that.
So, through you, Mr. Mayor, my understanding is just like we have working group for our turf field discussions, for our museum board discussions, similarly, staff will meet with the representatives from council and plan for the events in a more collaborative manner. That's about
Right,
it.
but will there be members of the community involved in this
Not,
also? No?
not as part of this,
Not as part
no.
of the working group.
All right, and will this working group provide reports to council? Or is,
I think whatever is decided by the working group, periodic report
believe-
would come to council, because then everybody is informed of what the decisions are made.
And that would come through Dave and Jacob, correct? I want to make sure that the proper staff and the proper group that they're working with.
That's correct. Through you, Mr. Mayor, the reports would come back as a representative from the city.
okay, thank you. Sounds great.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor DeAngelo.
Just a question, will the other counselors be able to attend these meetings?
I would hope, yes.
Well, it's just,
That's,
there's no terms of
yes, it's
reference.
open, it's open.
Absolutely.
Just to address that through you, Mr. Mayor, you have to recognize quorum cannot be
Yeah.
met in order to,
That's
in
correct.
order to not breach the Municipal Act open meetings requirement. There's a maximum of 4 counselors.
Okay, yeah. That's correct. Go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So what we could do is when staff is arranging meetings, we could send out an email of counselors who are attending, because there's 3, some might be occupied with other events. Maybe none of the 3 can attend, and in this method, we can see that we're not reaching quorum, that we're staying only to the maximum of 4 at a time. So that's just a means of communicating to each other so that we can all attend, whoever wants to attend.
Okay. Go ahead, Councillor DeAngelo.
Yeah, my thought process was there might be counselors might jump in and jump out on certain activities, so that way they can help with that particular function, while others may have a little bit more time where they could spend it on all the functions. So if there's an agenda that gets sent out to the council saying these are what we're going to be discussing at the next meeting, that would be quite helpful, and I think it gives the other councilors some opportunity to help the 3 that are on the committee.
Sounds good. Okay, we got a mover and a seconder. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay. Now, we're gonna go into closed session.
Sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor, because we're adding a paragraph here of who will be appointed, I just wanted to make clear that in addition to what's on the screen, what was moved and seconded is that Councilors Decker, Councilor DeVitis, and Councilor O'Hare will be named to the working group.
To the working group.
Okay.
That is correct. And everybody was aware of that when you voted. Do you wanna hold another vote?
We can hold a vote for that second paragraph if you like. We can do
Yeah,
a separate
let's
vote.
make sure that, so we
Okay.
had a mover and a seconder. We'll use that same mover and a seconder. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. That's the way it's clear. That's a good point, Nicholas. Okay, before, I'll get the thing put up on why we're going into closed, because I don't have to read this, because there's, no counselors are, remote. So, okay. Before I ask for a mover and a seconder to go into closed session, we will go, closed session is to receive confidential information respecting a matter respecting advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose under Section 239F of the Municipal Act 2001, respecting Thorold Museum governance. Can I get a mover and a seconder to go into closed session? Councillor DeRose, Councillor Hanley. And all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And we'll take a few minutes if someone has to go to the washroom before we go into close.